The ASCOT ER for Older People is an easy-read adaptation of the Adult Social Care Outcomes Toolkit. The easy-read version for older people has been designed in collaboration with older people themselves, primarily those living with dementia and their supporters or carers. In this video, we feature their accounts of what this process has been like. But first, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the project. Over 500,000 older people in the UK are supported by publicly funded social care services. These services help with day-to-day living in people's own homes, in care or nursing homes and other settings. It's crucial that people supported by such services get a chance to say if the support they receive is as good as it could be. This is often done with the use of questionnaires like ASCOT. However, some older people find the questionnaire difficult to complete. We wanted to enable more older people to complete the questionnaire themselves. To do this, we involved a group of people with lived experience, primarily those living with dementia and their supporters or carers. They came together as a working group to adapt an existing version of the toolkit. The working group met for a total of 20 hours, reviewing all aspects of the toolkit in detail, and were keen to ensure that different opinions and experiences were taken into account. In between the meetings, we tested the new tool with people who find questionnaires difficult to complete, each time bringing the findings back to the working group for further changes to the tool. The working group made changes to the wording of the questions and response options, the amount of content on each page and its layout, and the overall style. The final version of the adapted toolkit is substantially different from the standard version, and the easy-read version previously designed for people with learning disabilities. The research team have benefited enormously from the input and experience of the working group. We also wanted to find out what working group members thought about their involvement. These are their stories.
I think the fact that I thought that I could bring something to the group, and so that was my original intention. It wasn't to have great fun and great food and great conversations.
And when I was asked if I would like to participate in this, I said yes, because my husband had dementia and I lost him several years back, and I do volunteer work now with people who are supporters of people living with dementia. So anything that's going to actually help and improve the services and improve their experience in the services that they're receiving is I think vital. And so I felt quite privileged to be asked to participate in anything that was going to do that.
And we got involved because since Jim was diagnosed, we've been keen to be involved in research, because even if it's something that doesn't help him, I think research is quite essential to get on top of problems like dementia and to find ways of solving things.
The way I look at things is I don't care if it doesn't benefit me, but I do care if it benefits other people, even if it's the wrong way in the future. To me, that is more important than it benefiting me. And I get a lot of satisfaction out of that. It's what keeps me going.
I always feel as though I want to try and continue to make a difference. And I recognised within this piece of work that potentially it could make a difference to the lives of those living with dementia. Secondly, it's local. So I want to do as much as I possibly can to support projects which are locally based. This was face-to-face, it was local. Thirdly, many of the people involved in the project I knew beforehand. Not all, but many of them I knew beforehand. So there was a great deal of trust before starting the project, which could then be further built upon during the course of the last 18 months or so. And fourthly, it was something that both my wife and I could do together. So often she will attend a group that may be for family carers, I'll attend a group that may be for people with dementia, this was something we could do together.
I think overall it was very interesting. You met people, like-minded people, for want of a better word, who you got on well with. You know, quite easy to chat away to them, discuss problems, etc. I thought it went very well, very smooth.
I involved the sort of batting backwards and forwards of different ideas, and the whole thing gradually evolving from that. Nobody tried to be too domineering, I suppose, for want of a better word. Any bouncing of ideas was done pleasantly, and it was all fairly good-natured.
Everybody listened, everybody had an opinion, and it might not be your opinion, but they shared it and then agreed to differ or compromised. There was no argument, no, oh, I'm not going with that.
What was interesting about it was that it opened my eyes to other ideas about it. And some people would say, well, what about such and such a thing? And I'd look at it and I think, I'd never looked at it that way before. Yes, so it made me think about things with a different perspective. And I think I could say that was the same for a lot of other people as well.
And then I think alongside that, there was the opportunity to talk to professionals within the group around what the lived experience is like for people like me, in order that they can better understand and make their piece of work more appropriate for people with dementia to complete.
The group itself has been quite diverse, and I found that really helpful, and I think probably the researchers did as well. You know, I know that we've been throwing ideas at you, but actually you've come back as professionals and stopped us in our tracks and made us think, well, maybe we're not as clever as we thought we were, and we've let the researchers have an input as well. That's been brilliant.
I think those who receive the toolkit would be wise for them to know that it was constructed in conjunction with people who have a diagnosis of dementia, and in fact the contributions of those with dementia were fundamental in what that person is receiving.
There were particular things that we chewed over a lot, and then maybe in another meeting further on we chewed it over again after it had been tried out on the trial group, and that's what I found really interesting, the fact that our group was working on this periodically, and a lot of people who were being interviewed were also working on this and involved in this, so it was like a big team of people working.
And I've loved the thought or the feeling that we're actually doing something that's going to benefit people.
I've really enjoyed it. I think it's been a valuable experience for me. I've learnt a lot, more than I thought I would learn, and the interchange between us all in the group has been really good.
I enjoyed the twists and turns of the research, and even sometimes going back over what we've already done and completely changing things. That for me has been, probably sounds strange, but that for me has been really exciting and really fulfilling as well. You know, I've really got into the research of things, and that's been, for me, a new experience and a really pleasurable one as well.
It's been very interesting. It's been very worthwhile. It's taught me a lot. It's enabled me to feel as though I can continue to contribute something useful. When we talked about things like whether illustrations would be included in the final document, an enormous amount of time and energy and effort went into the types of illustrations that were going to be used. I personally felt a great deal of attachment to the illustrations, but it was good for me to know that they weren't going to be used and to accept that, because it's very tempting to think, we put an enormous amount of work into that, I really like them, I really boxed for certain illustrations to be used, but gee, they're not going to be used. Isn't that frustrating? No, I didn't think that, because I was reminded of the process and the views of others, and how, in fact, the piece of work was far more important than my own personal thoughts on what I'd contributed or what had been contributed to it.
I mean, I've had Alzheimer's for quite some time, and people tend to look at you as if you're stupid. But to be treated as an equal and to have your opinions listened to and sometimes taken note of, it is really good for you, because you yourself sometimes look at yourself and think, I have Alzheimer's, I have vascular dementia, I'm not firing on all cylinders, I'm a bit silly sometimes. And this makes you think that you're not as silly as you think you are, that you can still contribute. It saved my life. It made me look, I have Alzheimer's, and I thought it was the end of my world, but I've just realised it's not. This is just the beginning of a different world. And coming to this was the first step of that. And it's been really life-changing. And if I can be involved in things like this, it gives me a reason to keep going.
I would advise anybody to get involved in research.
And I find myself talking about my experiences within this group to various different people in their groups or individually. And that stimulates a lot of thought on their part as well. And after a while I thought, I'm really glad to be able to come and talk to my friends and my associates about how this sort of thing works in terms of research that is being done with the aim of improving services for people in the future. And if it means that people have a better understanding of how decisions are made and whether they might want to also participate in research projects like I have been doing, then I think that must be a really good thing. But it has been a really stimulating experience.
I would absolutely recommend it. I've had a really great time.